Hi everyone, it's Andy from Hobby Headquarters. Many of you may have seen just recently me build up the Warhammer 40K Land Raider that I built up and did it in the yellow here. And a couple of friends of mine have dropped off at my store some more Warhammer 40K stuff that I thought would be kind of cool to build and show you guys. This is the Leman Russ battle tank. And it's part of the same series, the Warhammer 40K, like we've done before. So we'll probably do this one in more of a camouflage rather than some of the bright colors that some of the Land Raiders can get painted in. I was looking inside the kit. Looks like it's a pretty easy, straightforward kit, and it's a much newer mold than the Land Raider. This one had like a copyright date of 1999 on it. This is 2009, so the molds are updated and the parts look really crisp. It's only 2 sprues in the entire kit, so it looks like something we should be able to put together pretty easily and get to painting and weathering it. So let's get started on it. Here we are. Here are the sets of sprues. There's 2 sprues in the box, like I was telling you earlier, and the parts look to be pretty nice. Now, I've already removed the long gun out of here. There's actually 4 parts that make that up. I started sanding that. That's one thing I wish that they would do on these kits, is do some slide molding, which would make these guns a little bit easier to put together. But it takes a little bit of time, but I think it'll come out okay. You can see that the tracks are the link and link tracks all over the place here. So it looks like to be a pretty simple kit, because even some of these parts are not even used because of the type of weapons that you can choose for it. So first thing we need to do is cut out all the parts and get them sanded. Oh, also too, they also come with quite an extensive decal sheet for all the different factions and different decal markings for it. So I've got the main group of parts all cut up and sanded here. And I'll just kind of show you quickly how easily the base parts go together. Now, the next step on this, according to the instructions, are to put the tracks on, but I'm going to leave the tracks off for now because it'll be much easier to paint those separately later on, and then we can attach them in, since the tracks are fully exposed on this vehicle, unlike the Land Raider, where they're only partially. Kind of show you the basics here. This is how quickly this kit assembles. Now I'm using also the thicker Tamiya glue. It bonds a little bit better on some of these bigger parts because it dries a little bit slower than the green. I'll still use the green from time to time on some of the smaller parts. And just a matter of lining that up real well, and we'll sand all this. I've gotten this part sanded, but once this dries right here, we'll sand it even more. And then it's just as simple as attaching this piece into here and this piece on the other side, and you've got the basis of the entire vehicle done. There's a lot of little extra parts that go on top there, but this should be a nice, easy assembly. Okay, I've got the vehicle all sanded up and some of the other parts that we're going to put on. And one thing I was a little surprised by, I thought that the vehicle would be much larger, especially compared to the Land Raider. But as you can see side by side, it's actually kind of tiny comparatively. When we start gluing some of the parts on the back, they give you a couple options. There's no pin marks anywhere to show you where actual items are going to fit. So you can either put like the exhaust on this side or both of them on this side and move the box over. I kind of like the idea of putting the box kind of onto the side and putting both exhausts on one side as well. So what I'll do now is I'll kind of in a speeded up form kind of show you all the parts going on. The side sponsons go together quite well too. Just dry fitting them there, and oops, the fit is real well. Just got to make sure you get all the parts lined up just right. And I'm just, actually this goes like that. And finally this last little piece just plugs right in through here. And I'll glue that on, of course, too. And you've got your side sponson, and then you get to choose your gun that you're going to put into it. Now I'm going to clean up this a little bit more and get it all nicely finely sanded, and we'll choose a gun for the side as well. So this is the gun that I chose for the side sponsons, and the bottom represents the way it comes from the manufacturer. It's not hollowed out for the machine gun. Now what I've done here is I've just taken a pin vise, and we'll go down the middle of it and drill out a hole. And if you don't get it exactly straight, you can take your X-Acto knife and just spinning it, but on the areas that you think that you need to straighten it out a little bit, you know, push a little harder on that side to get your circle a little bit straight towards the piece. And then you can just clean out all the excess on it, and it does a pretty good job of hollowing out your barrel. But you do want to start off with your pin vise first to get the initial hole. And once you get both of the barrels hollowed out, you can see how much better it looks. And I've just gone ahead and put a little bit of glue on this side sponson, and just it's got some nice witness marks on it there that make it go right into place, and looks pretty cool. Now they do give you, like I said, a variety of different types of weapons. So I've just gone ahead and assembled the 3 different types of gun that I decided to put on. Each one of the sponsons, and as well as this front little turret up here, has its own little gun. And we've hollowed out all of them. I have a little bit more cleanup to do on any of the little burrs, but just to give you an idea how it's going to look. Also, I've taken the main gun, which is a 4-part piece, and I've been sanding it, and I just painted it black to see what more I have to repair. And there used to be a seam right down there that we've gotten rid of that pretty well. Touch of it right there that I still need to get rid of, and then there's just some slight little areas. But if you spend some time, it is a little bit of a pain sometimes having a multi-part barrel. But if you spend some time, especially with padded sanding blocks, they really help a lot to get rid of that, and they won't leave any flat spots as well. So I'll do a little bit more touch-up after this dries, of course, too. The paint's still drying. I'll do a little bit more touch-up on the sanding, and then we'll go ahead and start assembling the turret. Well, here we are. Here's our completed model, minus the tracks, of course. We're going to paint those separately. Overall, it's a very simple kit to put together. I mean, we're talking just a couple of hours total. The plastic is a little bit softer than most modeling plastics that, if any of you guys are doing, like, you know, like a Dragon kit or a Tamiya, and that's noticeable in these what looks like scratches right here. It's actually very smooth, but it does leave some scratch marks. And the reason I know that is I had what looked like terrible scratches on the barrel, but after putting the black coat on to see if we had any more repair to do, we're actually completely gone. So this is something that the average modeler can knock together pretty quickly, just in a couple hours. We did drill out all the barrels, like I was telling you earlier, and then we put a variety of different guns on. And same thing with the back. Got to blow off some of that excess dust and stuff on it. But what we'll do first now is I'm going to coat the entire thing with a black color, and that is just to make sure that I haven't had any flaws that I want to patch up first. And if we like the way the black color is, we're going to spray white highlights on it. And a few people that watch me build the other one were asking why the black and white coat first, and that is to make the top coat of paint look like kind of like a faded mottled look, so it doesn't look like perfectly brand new. And that's a step you can skip. It's something you don't have to do. I just like doing it because I like the way it fades the paint in and out, similar to the way, you know, this was like the nice base. They start getting this going here, and you can see the different tones of yellow underneath there. It's just a nice effect if you want to make it look worn. If you want it brand new, showroom fresh, don't put the black and white coat on it. So we're all set to paint now. I've got my painting table out. I've also got all of the tracks cleaned up and with some tape attached to a box here so they don't blow all over the place. Now the very first color we're going to use is NATO Black. Now to kind of clear up some confusion, a few people have been asking, well, why NATO Black? And it doesn't have to be NATO Black. I got into the habit of using NATO Black a while ago because it looks more like rubber, and if I was going to be building a tank right now that had rubber road wheels, I just found it was a lot easier rather than going back over with another color black just to paint the entire thing for our shadow coat with NATO Black. You can use regular XF1 flat black. It'll work fine. The rubber doesn't turn out as much like rubber, and this doesn't have any rubber, so we're not even going to worry about on that. But just in the future, but either color will work fine for it. After we do the black, and we like the way everything looks, and there's no scratches or anything that need to be taken care of, what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight just some of the center areas of these points, and with white. What that's going to do is once we put our XF57 on, this is going to be our base color based on the way the box art looks. What it does is it makes tone variations inside the paint. So everything is not so stark, just one solid color. You'll look like it's been faded in some areas, and it just gives it a nice weathered effect without having to do any other weathering right after that. Then after this is dried, we're going to go ahead and shoot the XF26 deep green based on, like, once again, the box art. As you can see right here, those two colors look to be about as close as possible as to those as we can get. And then after we get all of the paint job done, we're going to go ahead and spray the entire model with some kind of flat lacquer, either TS80, which is Tamiya's flat lacquer, and it's just in a spray can. I just find it much easier just to spray it rather than putting it through the airbrush. Or you can use Tester's 1260, which is a dull coat, and that'll work fine on it as well. Now the airbrush I'm using is an Iwata Eclipse HPCS. It's the brush I've been using for quite a while now, and I really love Iwata brushes, do a very good job. One other thing I'll point out too is once we paint the tracks the black color, that's going to be the base color on the tracks. And then I've got this mixture of a kind of like a tarnish color. It's not really a rust, but this right here is made up of 70% XF67, which is NATO brown, 25% NATO black, and then 5% red. And you just lightly mist it over all of the tracks with the black base coat on it there, and it adds a nice tarnished effect to it without having to go overboard with rust or anything. And then you can still do all your weathering on top of that, but it's just a nice base coat, I find, for my tanks like that. So first thing we're going to do is start off with the black color. Now I've gone ahead and sprayed the white tone over the highlight coat over the dark, so you can see like shadows and highlights. And now we're going to go ahead and shoot it with the XF57, the buff. That's going to be our base coat. And what you don't want to put a super heavy coat on of your initial coat, and you want to be able to see the dark and light underneath come through to kind of have the color variation on it. So I'm going to go ahead and spray the entire vehicle, and then I'll kind of take it into the other area and show you the difference, what it looks like. So now that we've let the buff color dry, I wanted to show it to you, and hopefully you can see on camera pretty well as it looks in person, that you don't just have a solid monotone look to it, like it was just sprayed with like a spray can, you know, and just covered everything in one color. You'll have some faded, some lighter spots, some darker spots. And it's just a subtle thing, and this is great for wargaming because once you seal this with a dull coat paint, it'll still remain that way, and you won't have to worry about rubbing anything off. So it's a mild way of doing a little bit of weathering without having to worry about rubbing it off. So now because this has a hard panel line, as you can see hopefully in the back of this box right here, we're going to mask off some of the areas to paint the green effect first. So I'll go through and spend some time masking it off and come back and show you what it looks like. Here we are. Here is our camouflage coat on. And I just masked off just in some random patterns and painted the green color on. And then have just sprayed the entire thing with TS80, Tamiya's flat coat. And that's just going to seal in all the paint jobs so we can do any of our touch-up and other parts on it right now without having to worry about touching the paint underneath. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and put the tracks on, and then we can start doing some of the weathering on it. To attach the track, I am just going to use, because it is already painted, just a couple little spots of super glue down the line. And this way and it fits pretty tight to begin with, so I don't think it's going to have much problem with it falling out, but we just want to make sure it stays nice and tight inside the vehicle. And also we want to make sure the track is going the right direction as well. And then just make sure it mates up nicely with that. And you can see it gets a nice firm little fit. Now we're still going to do some weathering on the track, but the weathering we can actually do while it's in place. So I'm going to finish up the rest of the track and come back and show you what it looks like. Okay, I'll show you just the basics and how we're going to apply the decals. I like to use the Tamiya Mark Fit Strong, and just brushing a thin little coat down first. And just lining the decal that you want up. Kind of slide it into position. And then you just want to pick another coat of the Mark Fit, and that'll soften the decal. And after a couple of minutes, we'll take a cotton swab and kind of burnish it down to get it to adhere really well to it. It'll also make it contour over any bumps or any other little weld seams or anything like that. Now this happens to be on a flat spot, so it won't really matter as much. But when you go to put it like on some of the sides and things, it'll really make it stick out really well. Now when it comes to weathering, I'm going to weather this so that a modeler that was actually going to play the game could use this. And the reason I mean by that is that this is stuff that won't rub off if you're constantly handling the tank. So we're going to take that same color that I showed you earlier. It's also a great chipping and scratching color too. And dry brushing with a brush, just putting a little bit on and then taking most of it out on a paper towel. I want to start hitting some of the edges to create some scratches and chips. And because this is paint, this is not going to wear off like some of the other weathering mediums that are out on the market. You know, like some of the Vallejo stuff. And this will just go around picking up any of the bolt heads, things like that. So now that you've seen kind of it in action, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the whole vehicle and do a little bit more weathering on it here and there, and we'll come back and I'll show you the next step. And then using that same color again, we're going to do just a few larger chips on edges where you think there might be some wear from either getting in and out of the vehicle or you can do any type of scratch you want to. And how big or how much you put on is completely up to you, and how beat up you want the vehicle. So as you can see right there, we put a few little scratches on. Now we're not done with those yet. This is just the base of that. So I'm going to go finish up putting a few more scratches around. I'll come back and show you the next step in weathering. The next step we want to take is using Tamiya's panel liner, but we're going to use the brown this time to highlight many of these panels, and that's just because of the earth tones that we've already chosen with the tan and the green. The brown looks really, really good, and it still makes all the little pieces pop right out. You can go over and put it around the bolt heads, down panel lines, anything like that that you want to add some highlight detail. And it's a little time consuming touching each one of these little bolt heads, and you want to keep re-dipping so you have enough product on the brush. But you can see it's pretty easy to get it into the spots you want it. And if you do get it anywhere you don't want it, a little cotton swab with a little paint thinner on it will take it right off as well. But you mainly want to do it though while it's still wet. It comes off much easier that way. So once again, I'm going to go over the vehicle, kind of highlight some of these little pieces in through here, and after it dries we'll come back and show you what it looks like. And lastly, you can also use this product as a streaking product as well. And lightly you just want to brush a few little streaks on, and then going over it with a cotton swab, kind of wipe off some of the excess, and you'll get kind of a dirty stained look on some areas. You don't want to go too heavy on it, but hopefully you can see just the slight little variations in color to make it look a little dirty and grimy. So once again, I'll be doing that over a few portions of the vehicle. And then using a foam brush, this is really dense foam, we're going to just highlight the little eagle figure here. The nice thing about these foam brushes, they don't deform, they don't have any little stray hairs. They're just a kind of a stiff piece of foam that'll allow you to put paint into certain areas that you just want it to go. And then what you can do after this is you can use a little bit of the black panel liner and kind of touch it to some of those areas, and which I will do after this dries, and that will make all the little areas pop out even better. And now just using a little bit, now I'm happy to be using S&J polishing powder. This is kind of tough to get a hold of, but any type of metallic pigment powder should work. And just using just the smallest amount on a cotton swab, I want to just start highlighting some areas. Now, I know I said I wanted to make this so it was designed to be used in wargaming, but more than likely you will not be picking up the tank by these outer guns, so this will hold up actually fairly well. And if you ever needed to, you can always apply a small coat on it again. And also, while we have the panel liner out, I'm also putting a coat, kind of a wet coat, across all of the tracks to build up a little bit of dirt. We don't want to go too crazy, because any of the mud or anything like that we did like on the Land Raider will come off with extreme play. So with this first coat of enamel panel liner, it'll give it a little bit of a dirt color, and then we'll go over it with our polishing powder again and just hit some of the highlights and kind of make it look like they're kind of worn and, you know, roughed up a little bit. And now that the panel liner has dried, we're going to use our polishing powder again, and just on a little cotton swab, we're just going to highlight some of these areas, just to make it stick out a little bit. And the reason I'm doing it like this is the way the box art looks, so we're just going to copy the box art for this build. And you might get a few little hairs here and there from the cotton swab, but you can easily take those off later. So I'll finish up the rest of the tracks and come back and show you what it looks like. Well, here we are. Here's our completed model. I've gone over with TS80, to me as flat dull coat, and sprayed the entire model, and that's sealed in all of our weathering and our paint job one last time. So now you can touch all of these areas and use it in your wargaming, and none of this weathering is going to come off. It's actually all part of the paint now. You probably can use quite a few times before you have to do even any touch up at all on it. Kind of give you. We also went ahead and painted the blue on the lenses as well as the light, and then just lightly dusted them with a little bit of the silver polishing powder, just to make them pop a little bit. And hopefully you can see really well too that we have the nice weathered effect on the track. Still has some dirt and grime inside there. Also, we went and put a little bit of weathering, some rust on the tailpipes, and I'll kind of show you up inside here as well. The emblems came out really nicely with the metal, using the paint, and then using a little bit of the wash inside, like to fill in the skull's eyes and nose. So like I was telling you earlier, it was a very easy kit to build. No problems at all with fit. Went together really smoothly. Painting was a lot of fun, always getting to beat up and weather these things. Now, I could do a lot more weathering on it and make it look more like the Land Raider, but like I was telling you earlier, I wanted to make it so this is game playable right the way it is. So you can use it this way, and you don't have to worry about all that other stuff coming off. So I want to thank you as always for watching. The next videos will probably be back to tanks, regular tanks again. If you like this video, please subscribe. I'd appreciate it, and please stay tuned because we have many more videos coming.